Okay, so the thing that you said that is original reporting, as I understand it, is the idea that Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau were not really speaking much and had a falling out.
Yes.
That is a massive piece of this because now, shameless plug. But Pipeline to the Pros.
Oh, that's an interesting book about basketball.
Available now. Yeah.
Did you write that?
Yeah, co-authored by me and Ben Kaplan. Forward by Jeff Van Gundy. Tibbs is a D3 guy. The book's about former D3 coaches and players who made it to the NBA as coaches and executives and the network that they created. Jeff Van Gundy was one of the godfathers of this. Tibbs is a Van Gundy guy, and I know a lot of people in his orbit. Just put it that way. There was no guarantee post-Minnesota that Tibbs was getting another head coaching job anytime soon.
Right.
And then the Knicks do a very unconventional thing and basically hire CAA to run the Knicks.
That's Leon Rose.
The talent agency, right, with Leon Rose, Rick Brunson, who is Jalen Brunson's dad. Jalen takes this massive, under contract,
$100 million less
under market value contract. Tibbs is a CAA client. He goes there. So if they basically hired CAA, and it's definitely up for debate on whether or not he was going to get a third crack at being a head coach after Minnesota, if not for his buddy and agent Leon Rose getting empowered to run the Knicks. So if they've had a falling out and they had a split there, right around the time of a $10-11 million per year contract extension, I want to know why. Like there's a huge story there.
Yeah.
Because I would have thought when I was reporting on this book 3-4 years ago, like that was about as tight of a president and head coach relationship as existed in the NBA.
Yeah.
So that's a huge piece of this story.
Right. If you get into philosophy situations, right, and I think this happens all the time, where you as a front office say, hey, man, we want to play deeper. We want to save some of our starters. We want to have less minutes for those guys. We want to develop some young players, right? Because you look at the two teams in the final, they go 8, 9, 10 deep. The way they play, and obviously Tibbs does not do that.
And by the way, that has not always been the recipe to win an NBA championship. Going that deep is actually the outlier, not the norm.
I totally understand that, but when you look at, because the norm has been like, hey, when the playoffs come around,
the bench gets shorter.
Right, the bench gets shorter.
But Tibbs has the short bench in the regular
regardless.
Season. Right. That's the outlier for Tibbs.
And the other thing is, how do you develop? Like, how do you know? And you look at this, Hughes bench minutes. I mean, he dwarfs everybody else with bench minutes, right?
Yes.
How those guys come up. How are you going to develop a young player? How are you going to get those next level guys to come in there and actually play well if you don't ever get them on the court? And that's always one of those things. Right? That's what happened to Michael Malone in Denver, right? Yeah. They had the front office and Michael Malone disagreed on the way we're going to use our bench, the way we're going to save our starters, and that ended up catching up to him.
And here's the thing. While I really like Tibbs, I respect what the Knicks did. The first line of their statement was, we have a singular goal of winning a championship.
And that's all fans want to hear.
Right. And so if they believe that he's maxed out this roster, and they're probably not going to trade Karl Anthony Towns, and largely they're going to be running it back with the same personnel, well then they're going to take a huge swing here at coach. I don't know who it'll be. I got some thoughts. Like, are they going to make a run at Dan Hurley? Because I would be very surprised if you fired Tibbs and then hired a first-time head coach. Like someone that it doesn't have a huge profile attached to him.
Yeah.
Because I would think the only reason you do this is if you feel like you've got a home run.
Look, you're going to hear the names Mike Malone. You're going to hear Budenholzer, obviously. You're going to hear
Jay
Hurley.
Wright.
You're going to hear Jay Wright for the obvious Villanova connection. He's been out of coaching for 4 full years now, 3 at least.
Yeah.
Right?
And Johnny Bryant's a popular name.
Johnny's not a household name, but he's assistant with Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland, a very well thought of guy.
A young guy who's a finalist for the Suns job, reportedly.
So, look, you're going to hear a lot of those names. And I told you, Spoelstra was the guy they wanted a year ago, and then he signs the massive contract to stay in Miami. The one guy, and we'll do much more on this later in the show, who I can tell you is not at the top of their list, is Mike Malone. Not that they don't respect him, but I would be shocked today, from what I know, if Mike Malone was the guy. He will certainly be one of the 4 or 5 most prominent names that are attached to the job. I've been told they are not Mike Malone people.
All right, it does sound a little bit like out of the frying pan into the fryer, right? Same kind of Same
Yeah,
kind
it's similar. Look, New York's different than any other market.
Although Malone
And the
did
Knicks
grow
are
up in this
different.
area.
Yeah, look, it's not. Everyone respects Mike Malone.
Right.
The guy won a championship,
Yeah.
right? And his father, of course, before him, as a very well-respected NBA guy for 50 years. He is not going to be the next head coach
Okay.
of the New York Knicks,
All right.
based on what I've been told.
All right, it is time.